Hi, this is Janos, it is Real World Audio, and we are looking at my computer screen again because I'm going to talk about comments. And one Modern Talking One posted a very exciting question on my video on the single driver speakers. Is that it doesn't make any sense at all, right? How do these single drivers actually work? How can they produce different frequencies at the same time? This is impossible, right? And and something that Frank wrote is very, very important, is that judgment and prejudice without experience and knowledge is the brainchild of this time. And he just gave us a very, very serious warning. And I see this come up all the time when I see comments for my videos. A lot of the comments are, I think, the result of that mindset, that we grow up, that we have certain expectations because what we read, but what we read is not the whole truth. That you are fed, or that's a bad word, but what manufacturers and ads, especially advertisement and marketing, they always try to communicate to us the convenient facts that will make the product look in a much better light. And what we are getting shown is always like one side of the coin but not the other. And when you have consistently being shown only a single side of the coin, then we kind of make the assumption that the other side of the coin doesn't really exist. So I'm going to answer Modern Talking's question that is it impossible to reproduce the entire frequency range with a single driver, and why are single driver speakers special? What do they have as an advantage, and what is their real drawback? What's going on? And I'm not going to be nice to single drivers. I'm going to give my harsh side of the story as well on them, but it's not the exact same that you would think based on the advertisement. So let's just give first a little background to them, and we have to time travel. We're going back to 1920s. Why? Because this was the time when Paul Voigt came up with the idea for both the single drivers, the full range driver, he called them full range driver, I think, full range, and high efficiency speaker, high F. If you can read this, then that's amazing. And he also came up with the idea of a strong motor. So he was the very first person who built strong motors, and actually those efforts were known as the Lauder Company. So nowadays you hear good things and bad things about Lauder. People like to diss it because there are some drivers which are better than most loaders, but please do not forget that Lauder was the very first manufacturer who ever made a very high strength motor. So they pioneered the technology, and all of those guys who boast that now they have surpassed them, they did all their work on the back of this giant. And if it wasn't for that company, then we would be in the Middle Ages for a lot, and not just for high efficiency speakers, because Paul Voigt, he was one of the pioneers of the entire loudspeaker industry. And well, I have many videos on him, and it's just astonishing how much he has contributed to audio. So I think he is one of the key persons in audio, and without him, the whole landscape of loudspeakers would be quite different. But going back to the single driver, what he did to make a single cone reproduce a high frequency sound. So here there's the voice coil, and he basically built a crazy strong motor to drive the coil. And while most speakers have what defines a motor as a strong motor? So first of all, the flux density, the magnetic field strength that the motor develops at the voice coil. So your voice coil is sitting in a magnetic field, and that's what it counts for the voice coil. It doesn't matter how big the field is around here or whatever, or how strong the magnet is. The only thing that matters is the field that surrounds the voice coil. And for most drivers, that field strength is between 0.6 Tesla to 0.8 Tesla. And that's normal. Or maybe you can go even lower, like 0.5 Tesla. And that's the commercial range, basically. And what Paul Voigt was doing is that he went Tesla plus. So 1 Tesla and higher. And then you look at the louders, they are around like 1.4 Tesla or more. And that's just vastly more than the better specimen of drivers that you see nowadays. And that is why these single drivers are better at reproducing a wider frequency band than a dedicated woofer or a dedicated tweeter, because they have a much stronger field and a very powerful magnetic motor, because that's called the motor of the driver. And when you have a strong motor, you have a much tighter control over the voice coil, over the driver. So basically that tighter control allows you to create those high frequency energies, which an equivalent size, like let's say another 8-inch driver that's not designed as a full range driver, and it has only 0.8 Tesla field strength, it's still a pretty decent driver. But that one cannot work as a single driver because it does not have the motor strength to create high frequencies as well, because the weight that needs to be moved is much heavier than because you need to move an 8-inch driver instead of a 3-inch or 2-inch tweeter, right? And because the weight is much heavier that you need to push, you need to move, that's why you need a stronger motor to provide the energy to move the heavier weight. And that's why that 1.4 Tesla, that is quite a bit more energy than what a dedicated woofer has. That's why it is able to produce a wider range of sounds. However, that's not all. Another thing, another parameter of these full range drivers or wideband drivers or single drivers is that they have very light cones. And when you have a light cone, then you can move that cone with much greater control, much greater precision. You can use it with a much wider frequency band. So that's technology number 2, what makes a single driver a single driver. Number 3, the surround that you have and the spider, so those are the 2 mechanical elements that hold the cone in place. They are very soft and pliable. And that allows the cone to accelerate very fast and move very fast. When you have a dedicated woofer and a dedicated tweeter, you have a very rigid surround and a very rigid spider. So spider, the suspension, spider and surround are technology number 3 that's different in a single driver. What else is different? Um, and then the other thing that of course is different is when you have the input coming from the speaker, I mean the amplifier, it's going directly, so there's no crossover, but that's not really pertaining to the driver itself. So going back to this driver thing, this is why single drivers are different from the equivalent diameter woofer, because they have much higher motor strength with much lighter cones and much more pliable suspensions, and these three together means that the amplifier will have much better control over the cone than over the cone of a comparative same size woofer, and that's why it will have a much wider bandwidth. And now because that cone will still have breakup modes, it will have issues reproducing the very high frequencies. That's why some single drivers use like a metal dome inside, or a paper dome, or they use a visor cone. So these are the three different choices that help to reproduce those high frequencies. So thank you for tuning in. I hope this little explanation helped. And please like and subscribe and have an amazing day. Bye bye.